A flag book is a unique sculptural book form whose pages are made of individual flags, which cross over one another as the book opens and closes. In this way, the experience of viewing the book's contents changes in accordance with how far opened or closed the book is. These books are fun to make and super fun to interact with, and they're very customizable. Scale, content, imagery, and number of flags can all be adjusted. In this video, we're going to show you how to make a flag book, and the process involves a number of steps, but it's relatively straightforward, and I made this video with the intention of making it super easy to follow along and not miss a step. Here are all the materials we're going to need. We need a sheet of paper for our spine, which we'll cut down to 18 inches by 3 3/4 inches. We'll use this spine to make an accordion fold, which is what will support our flags. Our book today is going to have 6 mountains, meaning we'll have 6 flags per row. You can see here that both of these books have 6 mountains. Each of these mountains is going to support one of our flags. So each row will need 6 flags, 1 for each mountain. The total number of flags is determined by multiplying this number by the number of rows we want. For example, this book is a bit taller, and I chose to have 4 rows of flags. 6 times 4 is 24, so I needed to make 24 flags for this book. In this smaller book, and the one that we're going to make today, we only have 3 rows. So 6 times 3 is 18, and that's how many flags we'll need for today. We're also going to need a ruler. I like these transparent rulers because it makes it easier for accurate measuring, and one of them has a metal cutting edge that we can run our X-Acto along for precise cuts. We need a blade of some sort, an X-Acto or a utility knife, and some kind of adhesive. Double-sided tape is quick and easy, or you could use some glue. And lastly, we need materials for our book covers. I have this chipboard, which is often referred to in bookmaking as Davy board. We're going to need to cut it down to the size that our book folds up to. You can either source this sort of thing from a bookmaking or art supply store, but if you've got any size sketchbook, I'm willing to bet it's got some stiff chipboard backing, and cutting this down to size will do the exact same thing. We'll also need a way to decorate our covers. We can draw or paint on them, but I found this cool topographic map and I'm going to use it to wrap around my covers. If you're doing something similar, you'll need one piece that's slightly larger than each book cover and one that's slightly smaller. To make our spine, we're going to cut a long, skinny piece of paper and make a series of vertical folds in it, like we see here. This is called an accordion or concertina fold. Before we cut our paper down, however, it's important to establish our paper's grain direction. Most papers have a grain direction, which is created during its manufacture. And it's important for us because paper folded along the grain is going to produce a cleaner, crisper fold. When folded against the grain, the paper is going to kind of fight you more, making it more difficult for you to get precise folds. The grain is always horizontal or vertical, never diagonal or fluctuating. So in order to find out, we simply cut off a sample of paper and mist it with water. Once wet, the paper always folds along the grain. Here we can see this sample of green paper folds along a vertical axis, so we will cut our paper down in that same direction. When seen from the side, folds of this nature have a top peak and a bottom peak, which are called mountains and valleys. These two folds naturally head in opposite directions. I've color-coded these diagrams so that the mountain folds are in blue and the valleys are in green. Step 1 is just to fold the paper in half. We want to be as precise and even as we can in this and all of our folds. We also want them crisp. To do so, we could use a bone folder or a paper creaser like I have here, or simply a plastic card like an old credit card or hotel room key. Either one will work great. Step 2. Now that we have one valley fold that divides our spine into 2 sections, we want to make 2 mountain folds on either side that will equally divide those 2 sections. These folds will head in the opposite direction of our first. Step 3 involves no new folds, but is to simply turn that center fold from a valley into a mountain. And in doing so, we have all of our folds heading in the same direction. Now we have 4 equally sized sections. And step 4 is to make valley folds between each of these sections. At this point, our spine has 7 folds. In step 5, we're going to repeat step 3, where we turn all of our mountains into valleys. This leaves us with 8 equally sized panels. In step 6, we're going to again fold those panels or sections smaller, but this time we want to leave the first and the last unfolded. So we're only folding panels 2 through 7. We'll flip our spine upside down so that our larger end panels are pointing up, and here we can see the 6 mountaintops we talked about before. Great, so we've completed our spine and now can move on to our flags. The size of our flags is determined by the size of the spine. Since our spine is 3/4 of an inch high, and we want 3 rows to fit within this measurement, we'll divide by 3, which gives us 1 1/4 inch. So each of our flags will be 1 1/4 inch tall. Our bookends are 2 1/4 inch wide, so we could measure our flags to be that wide as well, but I want mine to jut out a little bit further, so I'm just going to make them 3 inches wide. So 1 1/4 tall by 3 inches wide. I'm going to use sheets of color aid to make my flags and organize them along a gradient. I want them to be the same color on both sides, so I'm going to cut them in half and tape them back to back. This paper isn't super sturdy by itself, but once they're doubled up, they are rigid enough. As we said before, you can make your flags out of any flat material you choose, but they need to be stiff enough to stand up on their own. This way they'll open and close properly with the book. If you have any cool paper that you'd like to use but is too thin, like origami paper, simply adhere it to a stiffer piece of paper and then cut it down to size. Once I have a row complete, I'll line them up and trim them down so they're all uniform size. With our flags complete, I arrange them in the order that they'll sit in the book. I'll put some tape on the end of each flag, and then line it up so that the tall end tucks into the fold of a valley, and the wide side aligns with the horizontal edge of the spine. Each flag within a row is adhered to the same side of the mountain. The subsequent row will be adhered to the opposite. Here I start with the left, but it doesn't really matter as long as you alternate. Now that all my flags are in place, I can see that this top row sits a bit proud of the height of the spine. I could leave it that way, it's no problem, but I'm going to trim these flags down so that they sit evenly with the spine. We're ready for our last step, which is making the book covers. You'll remember that we decided to make our flags 3 inches wide, so we want our covers to be that wide or a little bit wider to protect them when the book is closed. Our spine is 3 3/4 inches tall, so our covers need to be that size. Unlike the width, I wouldn't go any taller with the cover than our spine is, because in all likelihood this book will be displayed open in a vertical position, and we want the spine in the flags to be supported. With the book covers cut to size, I'll tape them in the center of the large piece of paper. I'll then trim the corners and wrap the remaining paper around the sides like a present. Now I'll adhere the smaller piece to the second side, which covers up those flaps and makes the cover complete. Now that those covers are ready, we simply line them up with the book interior and adhere the book's end panels to the covers so that the spine is situated at the rear of each cover. At this point, our book is complete. You can customize it any way you'd like and keep it for yourself or give it to someone you care about. Thanks for watching.